In late 942 M41, at what would later be known as the Battle for Asphodel Heights, Captain Tycho led his company into the fire, a desperate gambit to stop the Ork advance before they could overrun the industrial hinterlands of Acheron Hive. What began as a clash of massed infantry, super heavy armor, and titanic war engines soon descended into mayhem. Amid choking dust and burning wreckage, the battle was decided not by strategy or firepower, but by brutal close combat, as neither side gave or asked for quarter. Amongst the acrid smoke and toxic fog, Captain Tycho and Warboss Thundergit marshaled their surviving troops and prepared themselves for the next phase of the battle. As the smoke clears, it reveals the abandoned armor, wrecked war machines, and scattered war gear of Ork and Blood Angel alike. It would be here, on this bloody and blasted patch of ground, that the fate of Acheron Hive would be decided. For the final mission in our Fires of Acheron campaign, James and I decided to use the greater part of a mission from Storm of Vengeance, 2nd edition's only campaign supplement, Death by Moonlight. This mission uses a custom deployment and limits all ranged weapons to 16 inches, perfect for representing the fog of war thrown up by the epic clash in our last game. Let's take a look at our forces. James's force commander is none other than Captain Erasmus Tycho, the Golden Boy himself, armed with a combi melter, digital lasers, a refractor field, and a seething loathing for orcs. Using his warp sight, Brother Librarian Belaces has made his way to the battle zone. He is armed with a bolt pistol and a force axe. James drew the smite power from the Librarius Discipline power deck. Tactical Squad Darius is divided into 2 combat squads. The first has 4 Marines armed with bolters, a sergeant and a Marine with a flamer. The second squad is made up of squad leader Sariel, 3 Marines with bolters, and a Marine armed with a missile launcher. A combat squad of Devastators has pushed forwards to lend their commander heavy weapons support. The squad has a missile launcher and a las cannon. Sergeant Adathan is armed with a bolter and power fist. Squad Exhale, the last combat-effective squad of Assault Marines after their clash with the Speed Freaks, has homed in on Tycho's locator beacon. Predator Squadron leader Raphael's tank, Sanguinator, is en route to the battle zone, having scored 2 Gargant kills. The vehicle is equipped with ablative armor. Tycho's 3rd Company remnants come in at 1,197 points. Warboss Thundergit, Scourge of Acheron, is my force commander. He is armed with a formidable, if unpredictable, custom blaster and a spiked arm. He has also augmented himself heavily, and is more cyborg than Ork now. Big Boss Edbreaker, one of the few surviving knobs on the field, is armed with a power fist and is clad in mega armor. He is armed with his trusty custom shooter. Afraid that his Weird Boy Tower was too obvious a target, Bugger Up has been dragged kicking and screaming by his 2 minders to the front lines. He is armed with a Weird Boy staff, and I drew the Squish and Edbutts War powers. Big Boss Edbreaker has company, a mob of 20 dead-hard Scar Boys armed with axes and bolt pistols, all eager for a scrap. Their Gargant crippled, a crew of 10 Bad Moons with 3 plasma guns, and their captain in mega armor prepare to bring the fight to the Umis on foot. 2 mobs of 15 Gretchen scurry about the wreckage, urged on by the threats and steel toe caps of their larger kin. Spared from the laser fire of the Reaver Titan, the Crusher stomps through the ash, looking for beakies to smash. This unit has the ablative armor vehicle card. Now for the Evil Sun's contingent. 2 buggies, one armed with a heavy plasma gun, the other with twin heavy bolters, and a war track with twin heavy bolters. Having fled the engagement with the Assault Marines and their Thunderhawk, 3 Evil Sun's machines speed towards Thundergit. Consequently, these units will be delayed, arriving on turn 2. Warboss Thundergit's assault force is 1,217 points. As per the mission rules, James would be deploying first. The Blood Angels must be deployed within 6 inches of the center line. Sergeant Darius and his squad dug in the center, using the wreck of a fighter bomber as cover. On James's left flank, squad leader Sariel and his brothers readied their weapons in some ruins, ensuring that the missile launcher had a good field of fire. Catching their breath, Assault Squad XL arrived on the right flank, ready to descend on wings of fire when the time was right. Sergeant Adathon's Devastators occupied another fighter-bomber crash site, all but invisible save for the muzzles of the squad las cannon and missile launcher protruding from the wreckage. Sanguinator would not be deployed at the start of the game, as James had drawn the Flank March strategy card and assigned it to his Predator. Captain Tycho deployed with Squad Darius and considered it his sacred duty to be at the heart of the fighting. Bellases sensed the approaching force of Orks from just behind Squad Leader Sariel's position. The 3rd Company were now deployed. Rockets and laser fire shrieked overhead as the Stompers and Reaver Titan continued their lethal duel. The Space Marines muttered battle prayers and shared baleful jests as they awaited the coming onslaught. The mission determined the Orks' deployment edge as 2d6 plus 6 inches away from the center line. I rolled an 8 plus 6, so 14 inches away. In time-honored tradition, I placed the Gretchen as a screen for the rest of the Orks, then placed the Bad Moons behind, in striking distance of a good bit of cover, to occupy with my plasma guns. Der Crusher stomped into the center to get as close as possible to the action, with the mob of Goff Scarboys, Thundergit, and Edbreaker in tow. And finally, Bugger Up was dragged whimpering behind the Bad Moons. The plan was to advance as quickly as possible, use the Gretchen to absorb the inevitable opening volley of rapid-firing bolt guns from the Space Marines, then finish off the Beakies in hand-to-hand combat. So simple, even an Ork could understand it. Oh yeah, a word on our missions. I had the Assassins. Not something that Orks can usually take, but such was the vendetta that Thundergit had against Tycho, I thought it appropriate. I also drew the Look Out Sir, and Reinforcement strategy cards. James drew Engage and Destroy, thematic, as the Imperials' objective from the Epic game remained much the same. Flank March had already been assigned to the Predator tank, and the Fearsome Barrage strategy card, in this instance, a laser blast from the Reaver Titan, Firepike. The Orks get to go first in this mission, and I wasted no time running the Gretchen on my right flank into the cover of the barricades, right under the noses of Sariel's squad. The Gretchen mob in the center surged forwards, ranging ahead to seek the Blood Angels. The Bad Moon mob took up a good firing position to cover the Gretchen advance, with Bugger Up dragged up behind. Der Crusher moved 12 inches, taking care to stay 16 inches away from most of the Blood Angels' heavy weaponry, as the Goths ran alongside, urged on by Warboss Thundergit and Big Boss Edbreaker. In the psychic phase, I rolled a 3, dealing 3 warp cards. But it was enough, and played Squish. James attempted to nullify, and succeeded on a 5+. Drat. Squishing the Devastator with the last cannon would have been ideal to keep the heat off Der Crusher in James's turn. Nevertheless, the Orks were on the move, and about to crash into James's thin, red line. James began his turn rolling to see if Sanguinator made it onto the field, but a roll of a 9 indicated that Raphael's Predator was still half a kilometer north of Tycho's position. Squad Exhale had not stayed alive as long as they had by charging recklessly into the fray, and instead formed up behind Squad Darius and Tycho, ready to bolster their position when the time came. Their landing was a good one, with only a few minor scatters here and there. With movement complete, Captain Tycho voxed Firepike and ordered a blast of the Reader Titan's laser batteries into the heart of the Ork horde. I breathed a sigh of relief, however, as the massive beam of energy went wide and only succeeded in turning a couple of Gretchen into superheated steam. Squad Adathan sent a lance of las cannon fire into my Ork dreadnought's hull, but failed to penetrate the machine's armor. The squad's missile launcher had more success, firing a frag missile into the massive Gretchen on James's left flank. The explosion tore through 4, but one lucky Grot survived thanks to his trusty flak armor. Sariel then gave the order, and a volley of bolter fire tore through another 3. Although the squad's own frag missile went well wide of the mark. The boss hadn't mentioned anything like this happening, and the Gretchen broke and scurried off, whimpering behind the barricades. Sergeant Darius gave a curt nod to his squadmates, and a jet of promethium leapt out of their position, followed by a roar of bolter fire. The Gretchen in front of the Goths disappeared in the fury of the Blood Angels' disciplined fire. I rolled a 10 on their morale, and no amount of threats or encouragement could prevent the surviving Grots from seeking shelter. Warboss Thundergit was as unsympathetic as he was unimpressed. Captain Tycho leveled his combi melter at the Ork dreadnought, hit the body of the machine, but failed to penetrate. In the psychic phase, James drew 3 cards. Bugger Up lived up to his name and lost control, resulting in him forgetting one of his powers. I'd keep Edbutts, but had lost Squish. I played Edbutts on Lexicanian Bellices, but the old librarian was a wily one and succeeded in nullifying the power a second time. James had shot up the Gretchen, but that was to be expected. Now he would have to deal with the true might of Warboss Thundergit's forces. Der Crusher crunched over the fallen Gretchen, grinding them to green paste as he charged into Squad Darius. Reasoning that Goth Ork bolt pistols are often far more lethal than their close combat attacks, I moved them up between Squad Darius and Devastator Squad Adathan. A cacophonous din announced the arrival of the Evil Sun's war track, which zoomed towards Squad Sauriel and Squad Adathan. On my northern flank, the two war buggies gunned their engines, driving alongside the abandoned Rhino. The war track's gunner stitched a line of heavy bolter rounds in the direction of Squad Sauriel, but the Marines got their heads down just in time. The Goths blasted their bolt pistols at Squad Darius, but any successful wounds pinged off the Crusher's armor. Big Boss Edbreaker fired his custom shooter and missed. Warboss Thundergit would have to show him how it's done. The custom blaster would use a massive 3-inch template, which enveloped all of Squad Darius and Tycho. The old Ork's shot was perfect, and this blast would be at a mighty strength 8, wounding 4 times. Two Marines of Squad Darius were slain by this fearsome, if unpredictable, weapon. The Bad Moons, still smarting about the destruction of their Stomper, unleashed a stream of plasma at the Blood Angels, slaying Sergeant Darius. The survivors rolled a break check, but knew no fear. Der Crusher had 4 attacks to the Marine with the Flamers 1, and despite a noble effort, the Blood Angel was pulverized by the Ork Dreadnought's power claws. In the second combat, I rolled poorly, with Der Crusher fumbling twice, but so did James, and the last member of the combat squad was pulped by the Ork Dreadnought. I then used my follow-up move to bear down on Captain Tycho himself. I rolled a 3 again on the warp charge and played Edbutts, but failed to wound the Blood Angel Librarian. In the end phase, I failed to rally either of my Gretchen squads, who remained where they were, quaking in their respective boots. Trust a Zoggin Grot. If I could kill a squad a turn and finish Tycho in the following combat phase, victory for my Orks would be assured. James had put his assault marines there for a reason, and now, on wings of fire, Squad Exhale came to Tycho's rescue, charging into the Ork Dreadnought. The Predator entered the field on an 8, and was clearly hot on the tails of both of my war buggies. Sergeant Adathan and one of his squad mates popped out of cover to confront the Goths. Snapping off 2 precise kill shots and flooring 2 of the fearsome Ork warriors. Whilst the squad's missile launcher sent a crack warhead at the war track, but failed to hit the speeding machine. A missile from Squad Sauriel had better luck, exploding the war track's engine, killing the crew, and sending the wreck hurtling out of control. Tank Commander Raphael had similar ideas, but cursed in frustration as the Predator's autocannon jammed. The Sponson las cannons both hit a war buggy each, missed the machines completely, but killed both drivers, sending the buggies careening out of control. James remembered that he hadn't fired Adderton's las cannon, so took delight in dispatching another Goff with the anti-tank weapon. With shooting over, it was time for the furious combat between the Assault Marines and the Crusher. James won the first combat by 1 and succeeded in penetrating with a crack grenade. I played my ablative armor vehicle card and ignored this. In the second combat, the Assault Marine was too slow and was borne aloft to be torn asunder in front of his squad mates. In the third combat, the Crusher, thoroughly outnumbered by now, found itself rocked by crack grenade detonations. The first penetrating hit simply buckled the leg, but the second blew it clean off, sending the Dreadnought crashing to the ground. The cardstock Dreadnought in the box game came in very handy here. James made his follow-up move to put his Marines behind this newly acquired bit of cover. The Psychic Phase. James was unable to do anything, and Bugger Up once again played Headbutts, this time thoroughly ringing Bellasees' bell, wounding him and bringing the Psychic Phase to an end. The timely intervention of the Assault Marines and the Predator tank had given the Blood Angels back the initiative. But would it be enough? In my third turn, I had some out-of-control admin to do. The driver of the war track slumped over the handlebars, brought the flaming wreck to a grinding halt just in front of Squad Adderton. The first war buggy careened into a wall, destroying the twin heavy bolter. The second war buggy smashed into it, exploding the engine and killing both of the surviving crew, and sending the first war buggy out of control once again. The ground shook as another Ork dreadnought entered the fray. Da Destroyer was here, courtesy of my reinforcement strategy card. Thundergit, Boss Edbreaker, and his Goth warrior mob all surged forwards, half of them taking up firing positions behind the wreckage of the fighter bomber. The Bad Moon Gargant crew, their plasma guns recharging, left the ruin to take up positions in the debris ahead of them. Bugger Up was brought along for good luck. Big Boss Edbreaker leveled his custom shooter once again, this time at Squad Adderton, hitting the Marines, rolling an 8 on the artillery dice and 4 shots on the sustained fire dice. 2 Marines, one armed with the las cannon, were blown to chunks of ceramite and gene-wrought flesh. Not wanting to be outdone, Thundergit pointed his custom blaster at the beakies that were creeping behind the prone form of the Crusher. Again, I rolled a 3-inch pie plate, but this would only be at a meager strength 2. The shot went wide and only dealt 1 wound, which James saved on a 6. The Goths let rip with their bolt pistols, dealing 3 wounds. 2 members of Squad XL, including the sergeant, went down to join the growing pile of wreckage and bodies on the battlefield. The 2 remaining battle brothers, unbound and undaunted, passed their morale check. In the psychic phase, I played Edbutts once more, which Bella sees reflected back at Bugger Up. But you can't beat an orc at their own game. In the rally phase, one of my Gretchen mobs found their bottle. There was a lot of green in the middle of the board converging on Tycho, and another orc dreadnought to boot. Victory surely was in Thundergit's grasp. Captain Tycho sighted the orc warboss, moving forwards, readying his combi bolter, whilst both assault marines boosted towards the Goths. Bellases moved into a better position and directed Squad Sariel to fire into the Goth flank in the centre. The destruction wrought by the Blood Angels' disciplined fire was the stuff of legend, annihilating 5 Goths and putting the rest to flight, despite the presence of their warboss. The boys hunkered down behind the wreck in the centre. Sariel's missile proved to be a dud. And James put Abathon's missile launcher marine on Overwatch. James then remembered to move his Predator tank, we're all friends here, and Raphael brought the Sanguinator and its crew right behind the Ork position, gunning its engines menacingly. The way to the Warboss was clear. Time for Tycho's gambit. The first Assault Marine's plasma pistol hit, but the weapon jammed. The second Marine hit, rolling a 2 on the sustained fire dice, but then we realised there was no way that he could penetrate Thundergit's cyborg body. Tycho's melter would have to do. Tycho hit and could penetrate the cyborg armor on a 2d6 plus 8, but a roll of a 12 would not be enough. Thundergit grinned evilly and readied his spike arm for some killing. In the psychic phase, disaster struck. Living up to his namesake, Bugger Up's head exploded spectacularly, killing 3 Bad Moons, himself, obviously, and one of his minders. The Bad Moons passed their break check, presumably because they'd seen this sort of thing before. Bellases, now the only Psyker on the battlefield, played Smite with ultimate force. His target, the Gretchen pilot inside that destroyer. The grot was crushed by the Blood Angel Librarian's righteous zeal, and Destroyer tottered, then crashed down onto the sands of Armageddon. I'm not ashamed to say that I do in fact have 2 card dreadnoughts. A bloody turn, but there was still time for me to complete my objective, slay Tycho, and teach the Beakies a lesson they would never forget. The war buggy rolled off to come to a flaming standstill, as did the second. A shame they didn't get to see any action. Thundergit charged Captain Tycho, which you are not allowed to do, as the nearest models must always be charged. We forgot this, but rule of cool, perhaps it was Thundergit's vendetta against Tycho or the terrible visibility that made this possible. One to remember for future games. Edbreaker also callously disregarded the rules of 2nd edition 40k, these Orks honestly, and charged Tycho. The Bad Moons charged the Assault Marine in the open. I moved the recently rallied Gretchen away from the Predator's guns. And with no shooting to take care of, we moved straight into the close combat phase. The Assault Marine dispatched a Bad Moon with a swing of his chainsword, then, incredibly, dealt 2 wounds to the Mega Armoured Knob, scoring 1 wound, and then I failed my Medisquig roll. The Bad Moons, seeing their captain cut down in front of them, just about held their nerve, thanks to the proximity of Warboss Thundergit. Tycho's digital lasers proved scarcely an irritant to Edbreaker and Thundergit. Edbreaker and Tycho rolled poorly, but James could roll his dice again thanks to the Hatred special rule, scoring 2 wounds on Edbreaker, but at AP2, the big boss saved them both. Thundergit, with an extra attack dice thanks to his spiked arm and another for outnumbered, prepared to deliver the coup de grace. 5 attacks and 1 fumble. A terrible roll for James, but he hates Orks. A bit better. Still, 4 wounds got through. And the refractor field halted 1 of them. Tycho was left standing, just, smarting from a dozen wounds with 1 wound left. In the psychic phase, James was unable to do anything. My Gretchen was still terrified. And as for the Goths, shocking behaviour. Double 6s. Inconceivable. In James's final turn, the 2 Assault Marines of Squad Exale launched themselves at Warboss Thundergit. Sergeant Adathan, raising his power fist, joined the fray, bringing his squad along too. The Battle of Asphodel Heights was reaching its conclusion. Sanguinator made its presence felt. As Sariel's squad again tore into the Ork flank, killing 3 Bad Moons who stubbornly held firm. The Predator's autocannon jammed once more, the mechanism worn out from the first phase of the battle, no doubt, but the Sponson Las cannon proved reliable, lancing another Goth as the beleaguered warriors desperately sought some respite from the slaughter. The Blood Angels were hell-bent on slaying the Ork Warboss and ending this madness once and for all. An Assault Marine was spiked through the helm by Thundergit, but the squad's morale held. The last member of Squad Exale fell as Thundergit impaled him through the gorget. But their sacrifice was not in vain, as a Devastator Marine blasted Thundergit off his feet with a crack grenade, knocking him prone and unable to move or act for the remainder of the turn. Sergeant Adathan, now with an insane number of bonus attack dice, fell upon the Warboss, unopposed, and drove his powered gauntlet into Thundergit's jaw. One for his battle brothers, another for the people of Acheron, another for Armageddon, for the Primarch, and a dozen more for the Emperor on his golden throne. Soon, there was nothing left of the arch-fiend of Acheron, save a nasty green smear encased in ruined metal. I could have played Look Out Sir, here, but it would only have killed Edbreaker and left Tycho to deliver the coup de grace to Thundergit, and I'd also be denied a chance to kill Tycho, so I elected not to use this card. In the final combat, Tycho scored 2 wounds on Big Boss Edbreaker, who saved both again on a 4+ with his mega armor. In the last psychic phase, neither of us could do anything. And so, the battle for Asphodel Heights was over, and with it, Thundergit's dreams of stomping the Red Beakies and conquering Acheron Hive. Tycho had survived, but his company had been decimated in the process. Such is the price of committing a Space Marine battle company to the field. The battle for Acheron had been won at heavy cost, but the war for Armageddon was far from over. What a great game, and we could not have hoped for a more exciting conclusion to the Fires of Acheron campaign, spanning 5 missions, including an epic battle. I've put all of these in a playlist for you to enjoy, but if you're a completionist and also want to support the channel, there is also a bonus Patreon exclusive battle, a witch hunt, where a Blood Angel force go deep behind enemy lines in search of an Ork weird boy. What next, I hear you cry? Well, James is painting up some Eldar, so there's that on the horizon. I am also getting started on a Dark Angels force, which involves restoring a rogue trader land raider, and I also need to add some bikes to my Blood Angels. There will also be another campaign for 2026, most likely Codex Angels of Death versus Tyranids, so watch this space. Oh, I was also very fortunate to attend Bunker Assault 2025 the other week, run by the excellent Rich and Jace from Bring and Battle. I spent the weekend playing 2nd edition, had some excellent games against beautiful armies, and was thrilled to pick up this trophy for Best Painted. Do check out Bring and Battle, they have loads of 2nd edition battle reports, epic, and more on their channel. The latest Patreon podcast is a thorough rundown on the event and the games I played. Finally, a warm welcome to my new patrons: The Gurnzilla, Ski Champ, Sam Null, Stu Big, Liam Parkinson, and James Wiggins. You're all amazing and integral to keeping the mini-sodes lights on. Wherever you are and whatever you're up to, thanks for watching and happy hobbying.